Okay, today I'm gonna speak about Genesis 1 in the Old Testament. Very interesting and very misunderstood. The Lord God said to Adam and Eve, "You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat of it, you will surely die." Now the serpent said to the woman, "If you eat from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will not surely die. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and knowing evil." So Adam and Eve ate from the fruit, and then the eyes of both were opened, and they realized that they were naked. This is a very, very interesting story, but also very misunderstood. It describes the process of the evolution of the thinking process, of how the devil built his fortresses gradually within our mind in order to inflict suffering upon us and to keep us dwelling in ever lower parallel realities. What this story is telling us basically is that God, by forbidding Adam and Eve from eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, trying to protect them. Why? Because once you know the difference between good and evil, you suddenly have a duty of care. Once you have knowledge, you can be blamed. You become responsible. If you don't know, you cannot be blamed. But once you know, you are committing sin if you fail to do what you should be doing, or you do what you should not be doing. You sin by action or even by omission. So God was trying to protect the man and the woman from the responsibilities that come with knowledge. The snake, the serpent, on the other hand, represents the thinking process, the criticisms that we constantly make of ourselves, of other people, judgments that we make of ourselves and other people and the world, playing victims. Thinking process drive us into negative emotions and keep us anchored in the past and feeling sorry for ourselves and being hurt by events of the past. These are the fortresses that the devil builds within our mind, that we must destroy by shifting the focus of our attention from the brain back into the center of our heart. The serpent whispers from her fortress within our mind, telling us from within that it's good for us to be like gods, for us to know the difference between good and evil. And in a sense, you could say, well, this is actually correct. Wouldn't we prefer to know the difference between good and evil? Does that not make us more godlike, unlike the angels, who only know good but have no idea about evil? So you could say that thanks to Eve, who was the first to take the apple, we as humans are superior to the angels, because the angels do not know the difference between evil and good. They only know good. So if the angels see evil, they cannot recognize it. So the angels are angels because they can never be blamed. Just like a baby cannot be blamed, or an animal cannot be blamed, or a person that is got a mental condition cannot be blamed, or a meteorite that hits the earth and destroys cannot be blamed, because the meteorite doesn't know. The devil in my mind is telling me that it's good that I know the difference between good and evil. But God, as a loving Father who wants to protect us from falling in the disgrace of sin, prefers his children to not know in order to protect them from the responsibility that will for sure bring us problems. This is a difficult one, but we have to stop listening to reason. The reasoning process will tell us, of course, the serpent is correct. We need to know the difference between good and evil. We want to be more like God. We want to know when we do something evil so that we don't do it, and so that we can stop other people from doing it, and so that we can judge other people from doing evil. But this is the thinking process, the reasoning process. The scientific endeavor will tell us so. However, remember that this is not the truth. This is not God. We have to flee from the mind of the thinking process. We have to instead shift the focus of our attention away from this and back down into the heart, where light, where the truth, where the path, where God lives. Inside the spirit, only there is the truth, and the truth is telling us it's best not to know. If you don't know, you are safe. And a good father wants his children to be safe. Even if that is at the expense of them not knowing, even if that is at the expense of keeping them unaware, a good father wants to save his children, all of them. And this is basically the story of Genesis. There is another very interesting passage in Genesis, Cain and Abel. I think Adam and Eve, they had 2 children, Cain and Abel, and one day the Lord speaks to Cain. Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must master it. Very, very interesting passage. Cain had been very jealous. God was preferring the presence that his brother Abel was bringing to God, and Cain was feeling disappointed because God was not appreciating the presence that Cain was bringing to him. And Cain was feeling jealous, and this is why God speaks to Cain and says, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must master it. In other words, to do what is right is to place the focus of your attention completely, fully in your heart. Stop listening to the thinking process. Stop listening to the judgmental process of the brain. Stop comparing yourself. Stop competing with your brother. Place the interests of your brother and of other people before your own interest. Stop judging. Stop criticizing. Stop playing victim. Instead, place all the focus of your attention inside your heart, and then you will see the light. You will see, and you will start feeling good. Good in your heart means you are navigating your way into a higher parallel reality, driving yourself outside the desert and into the promised land. But if you don't do this, says God, sin is crouching at your door, unless you can master it. So it's you can master yourself. You are able. You have an option. God is reminding Cain that he has an option, even though all the parallel realities that are possible already pre-exist, and in that sense we don't have free will. We do have a free will left, and the free will that is left to us to exercise is the ability to navigate ourselves into different parallel universes. And we can do this by shifting the focus of our attention back inside our heart in order to feel good. When we are feeling truly good, that is the sign that is telling us we are sailing our way in the correct direction, away from evil. But of course, Cain didn't listen to God, and we know, as the story goes, that the next day he murdered his brother Abe. We know that gold and diamond are created under extreme heat and pressure. Only under extreme heat within the stars, within the supernovas before they explode, only happen within the mind. Remember that. There is no external reality. There are no supergiant stars out there. We are imagining that. But we are imagining that this is what it happens. We imagine within our minds that there are supernovas, and gold and diamond are created when big amount of heat and pressure. That gold and diamond are created, and then when the supernova explodes, gold and diamond are scattered across the universe. So this is the extreme heat and pressure that is required to create amazing things, extraordinary things. And this is why God says that this third, the third that he will save out of the whole population of the earth, this third I will bring into the fire. I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. And which is this fire that God is using to refine human beings, in the same way as supernovas use fire to refine gold and diamond out of simple atoms. Obviously, it's a different type of fire. The fire that God uses is not the same fire as the supernova, and the pressure, the extreme pressure that God uses is not the same type of pressure of a supernova. But this is a beautiful metaphor. God is talking about the fire of suffering. It is through the fire of suffering that God is able to refine man and women like silver, like gold, or like diamonds. It's the suffering of fire that is the soil out of which the seed of the word of God grow healthily. So suffering is the tool that God uses to make us perfect. This is why Jesus says in several occasions, deny yourself, carry your cross, and follow me. Deny yourself, carry your cross, follow me, because suffering is the tool that God uses to perfect the human spirit. Suffering was not necessary before Adam and Eve ate from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because up to this point, Adam and Eve, which represents the primitive humans, probably at the very first stages of evolution, Adam and Eve, or the first humans, didn't know the difference between good and evil, so they were safe from any possible responsibility. They could not possibly sin, because even if they physically acted in sin, they had no knowledge of sin, and to sin requires your awareness that you are committing something wrong. So even when a lion is killing a gazelle, the lion is not committing a sin, he's just acting naturally, according to the spirit. However, once Adam and Eve ate from the fruit, they became aware of the possibility of committing evil. Becoming aware of the difference between good and evil placed them in a position of high responsibility, makes them vulnerable to sin. And this is why God now needs to use the tool of suffering in order to refine the spirit of man away from sin. Since man is now open to sin, God has to use the tool of suffering to refine man away from sin. Matthew 1, talking about the the Magi coming from the east, and the Magi went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary. Until the star stopped over the place where the child was. Obviously, we are not talking about a proper star. We know that only that which can be observed and measured has an apparent physical existence, and the rest of it is only an ocean of probabilistic waves, also called a quantum state. In other words, for instance, now I'm looking at the blue sky, so I have to remind myself that behind that blue curtain that I can see, there is no universe, there is no stars, there is nothing, because my frame of reference is, for me, from my point of view, all that really exists. So if I don't see the stars, that means the stars don't exist. Like in a video game, only that which is observed becomes rendered. It would be pointless for the universe to render a reality. There is nobody there to observe it. So what I'm saying is that when it says that the star stopped over the place where the child was, it was obviously not the stars that we imagine to be out there in the Milky Way or in other galaxies. It was not that type of star. It was a different type of imagination. We are talking about more like a UFO. We are talking about an identified flying object. UFOs, they do exist. I can guarantee you that. I've seen one. And this time I had not consumed any DMT. I was only 14 when I saw it, and I saw it for more than half an hour because the UFO was stationary. It was not moving. It was just hovering over the waters, and I was in a flat in the number 11 with big views on the first line of the sea. Amazing views over the whole coast in Alicante, in Playa de San Juan. I saw it, many people saw it. Many people saw this UFO because in the morning in the beach with my friends had seen it too, and they were asking me, or they were trying to explain me what they had seen, and so I've seen it too. Many people were just so amazed in the beach. That was the only subject of conversation. It was an amazing event that lasted for more than an hour. Anyway, this UFO had lights of such pure clarity and pure colors. The colors of the lights are not like the colors that we see normally, are more like the colors that you can see when you consume psychedelics. Very bright, very shiny, very vibrating, and even colors I've never seen before. I remember also looking with my binoculars at the UFO, and it had little windows, rectangular windows, and I was trying to see if I could see through the windows, if I could see an alien or something on the other side, and they were dark. Couldn't see anything. It was like an inverted dish with lights apparently rotating on the lower side, on the lower part. But when I looked with my binoculars more carefully, I realized that the lights were actually not rotating. They were like in the fanfares when the lights go on and off one after the other, giving the illusion of motion, but there is no actual motion. It's all an illusion. These alien entities were trying to tell us that reality is all an illusion, that motion and time, the motion of time and the motion of objects in space are illusory, because it is as if everything moves through pixels, where one pixel is on and the other behind is off, and then the one ahead is on and the one below. when the former one goes off, and so on, giving the illusion of motion like pixels on a television screen. It is exactly that, the kind of feeling that I had. The New Testament, Matthew 1, the star that they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. Obviously, the stars that we imagine to be across the galaxy, like the sun, they don't move across and stop on top of people. So this had to be a UFO. Now, why a UFO pointing to the presence of the birth, to the exact place of the birth of Jesus Christ? This is interesting. I mean, obviously we are not alone within this mind. We cannot be alone because there is only one mind. There could be, and there must be, I know there are because I've seen other lower body entities, other lower self entities. That means entities with physical bodies, apparently physical bodies, that share the single one mind of oneness, of infinity, and they do have to exist because within infinity everything has to exist. So aliens have to exist. They could not possibly exist because otherwise infinity would not be infinite, and humans cannot not possibly exist because otherwise infinity would not be infinite. And humans also must exist in different permutation of possible events. Every single frame of reference must find himself in different possible historical events. Everything must be contained within infinity. That means, of course, aliens exist. Have no doubt about that. But they are not physical entities out there. It's all part of this imagination. It's part of the multiverse. Quote, "You have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you." Unquote. I don't think there is a single person who's ever been in this world, maybe apart from Jesus himself, who has ever put this into practice. Not even the apostles, or not even the popes, even the least. If someone strikes you on the cheek, turn him the other also. And if someone wants to sue you, to take you to court, and take your clothing, give him your cloak as well. If someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Unquote. If only we humans could put this into practice, that would be something. That would change everything. You don't need anything else. Just this little single paragraph would be enough to change the whole experience. It is like a reaction of every person, every lower self, to fight back when one feels attacked, to defend ourselves. He's saying that we must not even defend ourselves, but give the enemy more of what he wants. Give him anything he asks you. If somebody, for example, makes a scam, we will feel betrayed and we will feel broken because we don't like to be fooled. It is even worse, the feeling of us being fooled, than the actual loss of money. Just when you feel that you've been scammed, that is in itself worse than actually losing your money. And there is so much scams today online and everywhere, and the public authorities, they are completely useless to put an end to this. The legal system is corrupted. In fact, the people in power are the most corrupted ones. So we live in a world where if you're not careful, you will be fooled and you will lose your money and you will lose. But Jesus is saying, give. If they ask you, give. You know, if an evil person is stealing from you, is scamming you, do not resist. If they strike you, you know, do not resist. Offer the other cheek. Give them what they want. Amazing. I mean, this is counterintuitive. Put this into practice. It's too much. Because my mind, my thinking brain, my reason is saying, this is foolish. You have to protect yourself from the evil. The serpent, the devil, has a fortress inside my mind. And from this fortress keeps whispering that this is nonsense, that we should not allow ourselves to be broken like this by the evil people, that we have to fight back, that we have to resist an evil person. But the heart, the spirit in the heart, is saying the opposite. And the spirit in the heart is saying, if you do this, even though it's very counterintuitive, even though it's as counterintuitive as when God said to Adam and Eve, do not eat from the fruit, because you must not know the difference between good and evil, that is counterintuitive. The snake was making more reason by telling us, you want to be more like God, you want to know the difference between good and evil. Here we find the same issue. Something extremely counterintuitive is the fact that God is asking us not to resist an evil person. We can see the stark contrast between the thinking process and the spirit. Completely opposite, especially in these two occasions. Do not eat from the fruit. You must not know the difference between good and evil. You must not resist an evil person. Let them take advantage of you and give them even more. Excuse me. My mind, my thinking brain is saying, no, I want to know the difference between good and evil. And I want to resist the evil person. I want to protect myself. Even if just in self-defense, I'm not going to go out there and do evil to them. I just want to protect myself. If I know the person is not going to give me back, I'm not going to give it to him. If I know the person never will give it back because some people we know they won't, I'm not going to give my money to him. But God is saying, no, you have to. You have to. Excuse me, I cannot. If we want to navigate our ways into heaven, which again, heaven is not a place you go after the body dies, because there is no body. The body is an imagination. Heaven you can achieve even today. Heaven is swapping, replacing your experience for another experience that is gradually one where only good events can happen, nothing evil can happen. So God speaking through the lips of Jesus, because everything that Jesus says is not from his own lower self, is actually God speaking, taking his lips and taking his hands. He said, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. And he sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Be perfect, therefore, as your Father is perfect. Unquote. So basically, what God the Father is saying through the lips of Jesus here is that He, God, loves the devil. Even though they are the opposites, they are also the same, because everything is one, everything is oneness, everything is one single mind, which is infinity. The devil is necessary. God cannot exist without the devil, and vice versa, because you cannot have infinity without one or the other. So we see that God loves the devil. God needs the devil. We must love our enemies because God loves his enemies. God causes the sun to rise not only on the people who are good, but also on the people who are evil. God sends the rain to water the plants and the crops, not only of the farmers that are good, but also of the farmers that are evil. If you only love those who also love you, then that is pointless. It's only when you love those who hate you, even when you love your enemies, that you will get a reward. This is what is meant to be perfect. To be perfect is not to just love back those who love to us. It's not just to do good to those who have done good to us. It's not just to pay back and to comply in order to fulfill our interests. Is to put the interests of other people before our own interests. And when we do so, no longer there are any enemies. This is what God means to be perfect.